Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're at the ballpark enjoying a nice dog and maybe a brewski or a slushie, and we are watching baseball, and we're going to be watching some huge plays as they flip their bat after a huge home run. Today we're taking a look at bat flip. This is a card game, and let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Now, bat flip comes with 8 different teams. Each of those teams has a card that kind of talks about what their strategy is, what sort of their style is, what some special keywords they might have, and the tips of playing those. There's 8 teams. Now, you can either, here's 5 of them, for example. Now, you can either randomly assign these, or there's a way to draft them. Keeping in mind that these teams, they're not licensed, so they're, Atlantic City Aces, Austin Bangers, Los Angeles Stars and Scrubs. So again, you could just deal 2 teams randomly to anybody, or you can draft them in the style of sort of smash up, which means the first player can select a team, and then the other player is going to select 2 teams, and then the last player will select their other team. Now you're going to take from the 2 teams that you've got, you'll grab the decks for those. Each of these have 12 cards in their deck, so now I have a total of 24 cards. I shuffle these 2 decks together and I have my teams. The game is played over 3 innings, and whoever has the most runs at the end of the 3 innings is going to win, or you go into extra innings. One team will be the away team, the other team will have their own card that's double-sided that will be the home team that helps track things, and then you start. So let's say the visitors, they play a card. Now there's 3 types of cards. There's normal players, there's pitchers, and then there are sort of catchers. So here we have a normal player here, and this is the hit. So they're going to hit for a power of 3, and this arrow shows it's a ground ball, which means the other player has to, if they want to defend this, they need to defend with a ground ball defense. 3 means they're basically going to hit a triple. So the other player can play if they want to. They can pass and let that happen, or they can play a defensive a card for defense. Now, even though this is a normal player, well, they all still have defense as well. Now, this one says it's a 2, and it's a ground ball. Because this is ground ball, this would have to be. Many cards do not have anything on here with arrows, and you could have defended it with whether it was ground ball or not. Here's a ground ball. They're defending a ground ball, and it's 2. And so 3 minus the 2 of the defense is 1, so this player gets a single. Now this place goes on to first base just like that. And now, once you've done that, you can decide, you go to a steal step, you can decide if you want to steal. Here we look at his speed. The speed is 3. Now, if I want to steal, I say, yes, I want to steal. And you can do this for all of your runners on base right now if you want to. Now, it can be kind of risky because each team has 1 catcher, which means in your deck you have 2 catchers. If the other player has a catcher, some of the cards have these activated abilities, and this tells you that look at this because you can sort of stop player. They do some special things. You can play them anytime. Like this says, he's a catcher. You can discard this player from your hand when the opposing player tries to steal, and he's out. So all catchers in the game do this. So if they have a catcher and you try to steal, they can play and discard this catcher, and you're out. Otherwise, if they want to, they can draw a card off the top of their deck blind to try to stop the steal. We have a strength of 3. Let's say they went off the top of their deck. We look at the defense as 0. So this was an effective steal. Because this was greater than this number, this would go in that player's discard pile, they get to steal. Now also, some of these cards, they have abilities. Whenever James Quick successfully steals a base, draw a card. So you'd get a hand of cards. This game is very much about hand management. Because you only redraw cards when there's an out or somebody scores. So for every run that's scored or any out that happens, both teams draw cards. So it's a hand management because as your hand starts to dwindle down a little bit, you got some tougher decisions to make. Now sometimes you can try to walk by this. Now by default, the teams don't have pitchers to start the game. They can put one there at the beginning if they have a pitcher. Pitchers can also be played as defenders. So if this guy was hitting and he had a 2 with a ground ball, somebody could defend, the other player could defend with a pitcher, put him on the mound. If there was already a pitcher, that pitcher would go away. This one would be the new pitcher. And they always have good defense for fly ball or ground ball. And sometimes they have ongoing abilities, like your opponent reveals each card that they draw before putting it into their hand, so you get to see what's coming possibly. But another thing you do is try to walk. Here is a walk of 3 with no pitcher, it's 0. If that's the case, this player just gets to walk and goes to first base. However, you cannot walk 2 turns in a row. However, if this player was already here, this player could walk because it's greater than this, but it makes it a little bit harder to walk because not everyone's going to have a good walk. Like this person definitely can never walk, or this person wouldn't be able to walk against this player. So having a pitcher there not only helps you with defense when you play them, but it also can help you against walks. So let's say we ended up walking and we had runners on first and second here. Now again, on your turn, you can hit, you can walk. If you want to, if you don't have good cards and you still think you could score this inning, you could strike out. You discard a card, you take an out, you draw a card, but then both players get to draw a card as normal because there's an out. So striking out is basically giving away, like discarding one card to draw two, to try to make it. Now it counts as one of your 3 outs, so you wouldn't do this a lot, but there are times when your hand gets down, you don't really have a good thing, you can do it. We already talked about stealing. The one thing we haven't talked about yet is the title of the game, bat flip. Once per inning, you can flip the top card of your deck and hit it, and the opponent cannot play a defender. Now there are some special abilities and such on some of the cards, not a lot of them, that can interact with the bat flip. But for the most part, you flip this over to show that your bat flip has been used, and you draw a random card off the top of your deck that cannot be defended. Now it can be a little risky, because if you pull a pitcher, well, pitchers can't bat, they're out. But each deck has one designated hitter ability that says when you bat flip a pitcher, you may replace them with this player instead. So normally this guy would be out. If this guy was in my hand, I could say, you know what, I'm pinch hitting him for my designated hitter. And now in this case, we're gonna get my automatic bat flip, which is 1. So they can't defend it. This player goes like this, and now we have the bases loaded. And again, we're trying to score runs here. Now this happens to be my favorite team because they play small ball really well. What I mean by that is, they have this card in my hand, has an activated ability. During your at-bat step, you can discard this card from your hand and bunt, which means I get an out, but then you advance all runners 1 base. So this guy would score, this guy would come here. So they're really good about getting runners in from third. Now also, let's say I played this hitter, 3 power, basically it's a triple with a ground ball. Now let's say the other team's player were able to defend it. Let's say they defended with this guy who is a 4 ground ball. So this player would be out. Now remember, these abilities can be played anytime. At that point, I could discard this card from my hand, intentional walk, which means I end the at-bat step, and this batter would, instead of being out, would advance to first base as like a walk. So these cards are very important because, hey, I might want to use this guy for a pitcher, but I might want to get rid of them and use this ability. So there's a lot of things to think about how to hook your abilities and combo them together. And again, you're tracking your runs here, you're tracking the outs here. At the 3 outs, the other player becomes the batter, you become the pitchers and the defenders, and you move that up from the first inning to, say, the bottom of the first, and so on and so forth. And you play the 3 innings, and whoever has the most runs at the end of 3 innings wins. Otherwise, you go to extra innings. Now again, each team is very different, like the juicers. These ones are all about juicing with steroids. When you play this card, juice 1, and the batter, your next batter gets a +1. And so they help the batters that are after them. Or when this player is a runner, your other batters have +1. They have like all sorts of different weird abilities, and each of the teams have their own style that makes them all pretty different strategies and different fun with each of them. There is an expansion available called Bases Loaded. It comes with 4 new teams. Each of them, again, has their own cards. Each team comes with 12 players. And again, they just give you more variety, like the Scottsdale Scouts, the San Francisco Clutch, which is really good as a home team because when you're behind, they get better. The Dirt Balls are really mean. They mess with your other players. That's more of like a take that deck, if you will. The Pinchers allow you to sort of pinch hit and substitute in and out different players in different aspects. And the Scouts allow you to scout, which is drawing cards, keeping some and putting some on the bottom of your deck, giving yourself different and better options. All right, let me preface this by saying I am a huge baseball fan, have been my whole life, played a lot of baseball. I like baseball games. In fact, Baseball Highlights 2045 is my favorite game of all time. A recent game came out this year called Lords of Baseball. Love that one. I am more inclined to like baseball games. With that being said, let's get on with this. Let me show you what I like about it. I like the Smash Up style team building. I always like that aspect of Smash Up, a very popular game where you take 2 factions, you mix them together, and each of them have their own style. I always liked that better than the game Smash Up. I liked the idea of having the 2 different factions, having expansions, mixing and matching all sorts of different combos, looping them together. And they have that here, and I love that because, again, I like to Smash Up, and it works really well here. Each of the teams feels so unique from each other, right? You've got the ones that I was showing you, the small ballers, but then you get the juicers. You get some that are better at defense, some that are good at pitching, some that do this. You know, there's a New York team, the Moneybaggers, where like you have to discard a bunch of cards and your hand's always like really low, but it allows you to play these really powerful players. And it's just a lot of different aspects and strategies. Each deck has its own sort of unique strategy, and I like that. And you combo them together. So you're like, hey, I like this deck, but I didn't really like it as much with this one, but I liked it with this other one, right? And you're starting to find, and when you start to permutate all the different combos together that there's tons of them, right? I like that you are pressing your luck for the bat flip or stealing, so, right? So you're like, I'm gonna steal. They might have a catcher. There's only 2 of them in the whole deck. You haven't played one yet. I'm going to steal. They throw the catcher, and I'm like, crap, I'm out. But now I know he only has 1 left, right? So you're trying to press your luck as to where can I draw that out. Bat flipping, it's like you got to find the right time to bat flip. You could bat flip, and you could play a pitcher, and you're out. Unless, you got the designated hitter in your hand, then you've got some mitigation there. The bat flip there is a bit of pressure luck here. There's a decent amount of luck in that, and it can make or break the game. I'll talk more about that later, but I do like that there's highs and lows to the game. There's a lot of strategy, but there are some momentum swinging plays, and a lot of them come with stealing, being caught or not, and the bat flip. It does make memorable moments for sure. I like that you're trying to draw out specific defense cards, out of their hand. So once you get to know your other team's cards, you know which ones to try kind of draw out. So you'll play some cards, make them waste the card you want them to waste, then you hit them hard with the card that you really want to do that now they have no defense for, right? I like that. I like that you're trying to figure out when to walk or possibly strike out. The fact that that's there, like, they don't have a pitcher. I could just walk with this guy. Or their pitcher's controls only 1 because they have a powerful ability, for example. When do I want to walk instead of hit? Or when do I want to hit instead of using that card for a defender? The fact that most of the cards can be offense or defense gives it a tough choice where it's like, should I play this one? This one needs a ground ball. I've got it, but I really want this guy's offense for next inning. So a lot of interesting decisions just to throw in there with the walks and the strikeouts as well. The game is pretty simple, but there's definitely more depth than first apparent, where you're, again, understanding what abilities the other player's team has and trying to combo that around. So it's definitely a strategy card game with a pretty decently heavy dose of luck in certain small bites. So let's talk about the things that might not be as good for some. The winning itself, it can come down to that random bat flip. Again, the game has highs and lows, and you're going to, play good strategy card game, but in the end, it might just come down to the bat flips. I had a game where, one bat flip brought out a pitcher, out, right? The other team did a bat flip, got a 4, grand slam, right? So it's like, and the difference was that 4 runs, right? It would have been tied if they had gotten out, right? And so that can change the game. There are some cards that, again, you can mitigate it. If you don't like the luck, make sure you got the designated hitter in the hand before you do it, right? Or maybe play some of the teams that have some of the mitigation with the bat flip. There's one team, the Philly Phillips. Their cards do tons of things with the bat flip. They allow you to reset the bat flip and do this. If you just bat flip, this player gets to do this, all sorts of crazy stuff. But the winning sometimes, as well as you played, you can get a bad beat. Now, it does lead to some memorable moments sometimes, but like one time you were able to pull a pitcher from your hand, from your pitcher back to your hand with some abilities, and then you bat flip, and it just might not work out. So it can happen, and some players are not going to like the luck of that. But it does make memorable moments, and that is the point of the game. It's bat flip. It's supposed to have these highs and lows. It's supposed to have some fun, random moments that might be terrible for some people, but it is going to make you remember the game for sure. Sometimes the abilities can be too much for casual gamers. A lot of the sort of the instant pitcher abilities can be a little tough to sort of grok if you're not like a gamer. If you're just teaching this to grandma or grandpa, you might need to sort of go over how these instant abilities work right off the bat. Say, look, these things can be played anytime. It allows you to react to things where you think someone hit, someone defense. These can be played anytime to help influence what actually really happened and things like that. Sometimes you're using them to discard to change to the next batter's hit type, things like that. And sometimes it can be a little much for people that are not gamers. This is definitely not, I wouldn't say this is definitely not like a mass market casual baseball player's game. There's more going on here. Not to say that they couldn't learn the game, but just sometimes those abilities can be a little tough at first to sort of grok how they all work. But if they play the same 2 teams for a couple games in a row, they'll get comfortable with it. The other thing is you really need to know all the abilities of the opponent before starting. So, hey, I got my 2 teams, you got your 2 teams. You really need to know those teams well. If you don't, if you want to have any shot at winning, you're going to need to look at their decks and just flip through and look at the abilities and see what's possible. Because otherwise you're going to be surprised by what they can do, and a lot of those times it's going to be to their benefit. You won't see it coming and it won't feel good. So another thing is, at the beginning of the game, and again, makes it even harder for new players to play, because if you want to play well, they need to know all the abilities, but then that's a lot of front load information. So again, if I'm playing with someone that doesn't play a lot of card games, I'll just mix up some decks and play. But if you really want to play this well, you're going to need to take some time during setup and allow each other to look at each other's decks before, after you shuffle them or whatever, before you shuffle them for the final. And just make sure you get to look at them. You need to know that. And that does put more cognitive load at the beginning of the game, especially if you don't know the game well. But that's a negative there. But with all that being said, I have a blast with this game. Tons of replayability. The extra expansion adds a lot of teams too. This game is a ton of fun. Granted, yes, sometimes I get pretty angry. The stupid bat flip screwed me up. But you know it going in, right? It's a shortish game, 30-ish minutes, 30 to 45 minutes tops. It's relatively short. You know its possibility. You know what the possibility is with your team. Sometimes it will just come down to that. Even my favorite game, Baseball Highlights 2045. You can top deck a pinch hitter and get the exact card you want. You know what's in there. You know which ones you've already played, so you have some information of what might be there. If I know I've only played one pitcher in my hand, and there's a bunch of them in my deck, it's a pretty risky thing to do the bat flip. But if I know all my pitchers are out, so there it is. I love it. I think it's a blast. And for all these reasons, it's getting my highest honor, Saxophone Serenade. So let's hit it. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they'll be launching the 4.5 Kickstarter this July, which will introduce the new Galactic Minecraft Game Topper, as well as new miniature game terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Game Toppers will be at the Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio, June 19th to 23rd at booth C2119, where some of these new items will be demoed, so stop by there or check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.